welcome to Moto2 then. This is Jerez for the penultimate round of the 2015 Championship Moto2 Series. Still up for grabs the title. Edgar Pons it is that has the lead at the moment, 30 ahead of Xavi Vierge. Myself here, Steve Day, alongside Harry Lloyd, to bring you all the action here from the penultimate round from Andalusia before we head to Valencia in a fortnight's time. Just one race here today in Jerez for Moto2. Edgar Pons, as I just mentioned, championship leader, Harry, 30 ahead, so mathematically he could be crowned champion today.
Yes, he certainly could, obviously, if he leaves. Since there's 2 races in Valencia, there's 50 points potentially in play. But if they leave here tied on points, Pons would still take the championship as he has more wins, and even if Jerez were to win the next 2 races, Pons would still have more wins in the season. Pons currently sitting on 5 victories, so if he were to win here today, that would be number 6, and currently Vierge only has 3 victories, so a step too far for Vierge, but anything could still happen. As we've been talking about, the weather could play a potentially big factor. Wind continues to pick up, and in this Moto2 field, not only is the fighting close, there's also 1 or 2 guys who are coming in here for a bit of a weekend away, and are potentially looking strong. We have Ant West from the MotoGP World Championship making a bit of a surprise step to this Moto2 Championship, and Westy's been strong, obviously. Ant West, famous as being a bit of a wet guru. Unfortunately for Westy, looks like he'll be dry here today, but even so, we'll get to West's grid position in a second, but West has been absolutely amazing so far this weekend, I personally think.
Yeah, and when you consider that in the world of sport, Australia are hanging their heads in shame this morning, I say that with a smile on my face next to Australian Harry Lloyd. I suspect you're putting all your hopes on an Ant West win at the moment. Yes, certainly. He and I will be having some words in the paddock if he does not finish on that podium. So hopefully we can see an Australian flag somewhere up there after the disappointment in a certain Rugby World Cup match last night. But here we see Edgar Pons on his warm-up lap. Edgar Pons, famous for getting it a bit loosey-goosey, and already there the back starting to slip out. Edgar Pons will be lining up on pole. His number 57 there on pole. Yet again, dominating the field, half a second clear. Pons and Vierge have had quite a journey to get here. They've been racing in the Moto2 World Championship. They've both been on the same bikes, different teams, but the same bikes. So those guys have been going at each other's throats for the past 5 weekends. You know, not only racing in CEV, but now they've been traveling Asia and battling each other out there. And it's been pretty evenly matched between those 2. You know, Pons has beaten Vierge twice, and Vierge has beaten Pons twice in the last 4 World Championship rounds. So in terms of World Championship form, they're deadlocked. But in terms of CEV form, as you said at the start of the show, Pons comes in here with a championship lead and definitely the rider who's a bit more in form.
Yeah, and this championship experience that they've had at the world level won't do them any harm. I suspect that they're probably both lined up to do a similar thing next year, certainly in the World Championship level. Here's Edgar Pons, who was backing it into Lorenzo Corner, even on his sighting lap, which is not something you would see every day. There he is then, lines up, number 57 on the HP40 Yellow Pages Junior Calix team. 8 podiums out of 8 races. There's the screen on your right. You can see the list of race wins. Championship leader, 30 ahead. The 20-year-old, one of many young Spanish talents in the Moto2 field.
Yeah, certainly, and you know, obviously he rides for that Pons team run by his father, the legendary Cito Pons, and now in the World Championship he's riding for the Italtrans team after some movements left them without one rider. And here's Alan Tesher, another former World Championship rider. Tesher, a solid rider in the Moto3 World Championship when he was there, but now he's come to the CEV Championship, and he's definitely a podium threat. He can blow a bit hot and cold. Last year he was on the podium a lot, but crashed a lot. And this year he's finished a lot more races, but he's sort of either been in podium contention or struggling to get about 5th or 7th.
Yeah, 6th place for him overall last year, currently in 3rd, as we now look to number 72.
Yes, Nagashima, yet another guy with World Championship experience, and one that I am keeping my eye on. He led morning warm-up this morning, and he goes into dry sack more sideways than I have seen any other rider ever. He's absolutely completely sideways into there and still manages to look quick throughout that corner.
So we'll keep an eye out then for the number 72, who's had 2 5th place finishes. That's his best so far this year, 7th overall in the championship. You can see it's still quite windy here at the moment here on circuit. Now we look further back on the grid to Luca Marini.
Yep, another one of these guys has made a big impact in his first year in the Moto2 Championship. You know, he was on the podium in Barcelona in just his third race, and he's had a pretty strong run of fourths, as you saw on that graphic, 3 fourths in a row, just losing out on getting another podium. But we saw last time out that he's not afraid to throw an elbow, and he produces some of the most exciting racing that we've seen in this Moto2 class. And, you know, usually that'll be fighting for third or fourth, so he's definitely one to watch. And here is the man who all of Australia's hope rests on, Anthony West, joining the Fritz tuning team on the FTR. Anthony West posted an Instagram update saying that the bike he's on now is the exact same bike he rode in the 2011 Moto2 World Championship. So to get that bike up into 5th against a bunch of 2015 and 2014 Calexes and Mistral 610s, that's some effort from Westy.
It is, and especially when you consider the lap time that he posted to get himself there on the grid. It was only half a second slower than he went when he was here in Jerez earlier in the year with the World Championship, so extraordinary, really. Here is Xavi Vierge then, on the Motorsport Targo Bank bike. He's got to make some progress from 6th on the grid here in this race. Yeah,
and it's really that one DNF in the first race in Barcelona that has set him so far back from Pons. You know, if it hadn't been for that, when he crashed, he was in podium contention, so he could have been, you know, 10 or even 5 points away from Pons at this, but he's still trying to make up for that one mistake there. But anything can happen, you know. We've seen a lot of incidents into turn 1 throughout the day and throughout the time that races have come to Jerez. So just a small mistake from Pons could swing it back in Vierge's favour.
Although the bad news for Vierge fans is that last year in the CEV Championship here in Jerez, he failed to finish, so he'll hope to put that one right. Here's a head-scratcher for you, Harry. Stephen Oldendale, after an impressive year last season, number 44, a bit off the boil in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, all of the top 6 or top 7 in this class are all so close and all can be in podium contention. Sure, Vierge and Pons are sort of a step above, but that fight for the 3rd step of the podium is brutal, and I think that a lot of times Oldendale's just fallen foul of not quite had the right bike set up to fight at the front. Here's a very interesting bike with a very interesting rider. Lucas Mejias on the Transformers machine. This has a wishbone front as opposed to your conventional 2 shocks at the front, and you'll know him from the Supersport Championship.
Yeah, a wily character to say the least, Luca Mejias, not always sticking to the rules. Quick though, I mean that's the thing that you have to remember, you have to forget about everything that happens on and off circuit. He is wild, he's excellent to watch, very versatile, he can jump on just about any bike and go quick on it. But he's one of those backstreet riders that's come out of France, and on any given day, he can get really, really tasty. He's excellent entertainment, so I will certainly be looking out for the number 90. Of course, World Supersport Championship podium this year. A few wild cards in Moto2 before as well. Who knows where he'll be today? Yeah,
exactly, and he'll be making another World Championship wildcard in Valencia on that same bike. So, you know, using this as a bit of a test. Here is Eric Granado. Granado was really impressive last time out, right up there fighting for the podium, managed to finish 3rd in race 2 in Navarra after a big crash in race 1, and he'll definitely be one who's a bit lower down in 9th than I thought he would be, but with guys like West and like Mejias making their wildcard debuts in this championship, it's Granado's up against it with some of those more experienced guys.
Yeah, Granado coming off the back of a 3rd place finish last time out. It is getting more and more windy here in Jerez. If you've just joined us, well, this morning we were expecting big clouds and lots of rain. So far, we've just about got away with it. This is Marcos Ramirez, further back, Spanish rider who's been around this year in a fair few championships. He's replaced a few riders in World Supersport, and now he's tasting a bit of CEV life.
Yes, and it says Yamaha on that graphic, but he's actually on the Ariane this weekend, filling in for Alejandro Medina. Medina, unfortunately, injured in testing for this race. So, as you say, Ramirez has now become sort of the go-to guy for if you have a 600cc motorcycle that needs riding.
Dimaseki then, this Indonesian rider further back, started the season off there with a couple of points, but since then none to his name. He'll be looking to put that right here this afternoon.
Yep, and Dimaseki has a lot of experience. He's a Suzuka 8-hour racer, so you know, he certainly won't be struggling with race distance or tricky conditions. As we say, the wind absolutely blowing. You can see everyone's hair flying back Here is a very interesting man, Federico Fellini. Last time out, he was unable to race due to hurting his wrist during warm-up. He's now qualified in 12th. He's had a bit of a mixed season, you know, top 10 when he's on it. He's also, you'll notice his bike is all black. And I tried to speak to the Suda technician because I'm pretty sure that's the 2016 Suda frame that he's having a bit of a test before Suda try and make their World Championship return. But unfortunately, the Swiss technician stayed tight-lipped.
Well, let's take a look at the starting grid there. And Edgar Pons will start from pole position, looking to wrap up the championship here with 1 round to go. Tesha will start from second, and then Nagashima third. Marini, West and Vierge are on row 2, followed by Odendal, Luca Mejias and Eric Granado on row 3.
Then Marcos Ramirez in 10th ahead of Dimas Eki, Federico Fellini on that 2016 Suda bike ahead of Ramdan Rosley, Gradinger, Thibaut Burton, Julian Morales, Gabriel Ruhu, the youngest rider in the class, and Max Enderlein bringing up the end of row 6.
Mikel Pons on row 7 with Sigvartsen there, and Nicky Coates, Flatag then on row 8 with Frossard and Tulovic, Buchner, Torreño and Lachlan Epis then on row 9.
Then bringing up the head of row 10 is Santana ahead of Juan Ortiz with Stinas Odegaard, Rafa Roman and Juan Carlos Cardenas bringing up the rear. A lot of these guys we see towards the back of the field are racing in that stock 600 subclass, so they really are up against it on, you know, production road bikes against these purebred racing Moto2 machines.
One of the questions for those certainly that are new to watching the CEV may ask is, watching this particular race unfold, is what are the differences then between these bikes and the bikes in the World Championship? Because effectively they're on the same tyres. What are the differences?
Yeah, you know, World Championship bikes, they maybe get 1 or 2 flashier parts from the factories, as that's really where Kalex and Suda focus most of their attention. But this year especially, the rules have been brought more in line to be closer to World Championship. Last year, the rear tyre was bigger and they were running Michelin tyres, whereas this year it's Dunlop with the same size tyres as the World Championship, in theory to make the transition from the CEV to the World Championship easier. Last year's champion, Jesko Rafford, has struggled massively this year adapting to the change of tyres and change of tyre size. So hopefully guys like Pons and Jerez, when they step up to the World Championship next year, will have a much better time.
There you can just see the marshals really struggling to cope with the wind at the moment. They certainly don't need to wave those flags. They're flying themselves at the moment. Green flags here on the warm-up lap then, just to let the riders know that that particular section of the circuit is clear, and also just gives the riders an idea of where the flag points are during the race.
Yep, certainly that will be one to watch out for. Obviously, you can't overtake on the yellow flags, and much as Jorge Lorenzo learned in the World Championship, if you get caught with overtaking with yellow flags, that can cause a bit of drama post-race. So riders will be keen to avoid that, and hopefully everyone does stay upright though. We've had 1 or 2 crashes today, but luckily no injuries, and so far everyone's been okay.
Here we go then, heading down the back straight here. You can see the dip in the circuit. There's sometimes the cameras can flatten out circuits, you can't really see some of the undulations, and Jerez certainly has 1 or 2 positive and negatively cambered corners, most notably the last and the first corner uphill. We've seen a few riders go down already here this weekend there, and look at those Michelin flags. They're almost coming off the poles there here in the paddock. The wind really picking up here then in Cadiz, just outside Cadiz. In fact, Cadiz Cove, 20 kilometers roughly away.
Yep, and we've just got the tyre report in, and everyone is on the exact same tyres front and back. So it looks like there's no one gambling with a softer option front or a softer option rear. So everyone on air quotes equal footing heading into this race. So, you know, in theory, there won't be one guy who storms ahead and then drops back at the end when his tyres go off. And all of these tyre compounds are the same ones that they used in qualifying. So a lot of experience with this sort of setup for these riders. So no one taking any big gambles.
So just a one Moto2 race here this afternoon in Jerez. They will have 2 races in the final round, and Xavi Vierge will be doing everything possible from 6th on the grid to take this to Valencia. Number 97 he sports, so keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, just up the road from him, number 57, Edgar Pons, starts on pole position. He could do with winning this race or finishing second, and then maybe hope that Vierge fails to do so, and he could then pick up the championship. Lots of permutations to get involved in. Alan Tesha, by the way, in 3rd. he cannot mathematically win this championship. So his aim will be to just finish the season on a high and try and hold on to that third position overall.
Yep, and Luca Marini only a few points behind as we get ready for the race to get underway. The flag's still being held, but now they're walking away, so it's about to be ready.
Green flag at the back means that the circuit is ready to go. We look to the lights in the top left corner. Once they go out, we are off, and that is a really good start in the back line there from Odendaal. From row 3, a few riders fanning out now, trying to find the best line. Elbows into turn 1.
Bit of contact from Vierge and Westy there. Vierge leads into turn 1. Absolutely massive move, but he runs it wide, and Pons takes the lead. Meanwhile, Luca Marini gets sucked back with a terrible start. Anthony West right up there already into 5th on that incredibly old bike. West not afraid to throw a few elbows. It looks like everyone's gotten through those opening corners all okay, which is always important to see.
Vierge from 6th up to 1st at one point there, but now he settles back in 3rd. He's behind his teammate Alan Tesher, number 89, who thought about a move up the inside of Edgar Pons, then into turn 5. So really good start from Vierge. He had to get away from the line well there in 6th. It could have gone horribly wrong for him. Onto the back straight we go. It's Pons that leads from Tesher and Vierge. Further back there you can see Granado. And look at Nagashima now.
Right up the inside there. Meanwhile, Tesha runs a bit wide. Tesha running massively wide, actually. And Vierge manages to not just get past his teammate. Meanwhile, Pons is starting to run away at the front. As we've seen, much like many of the other championship leaders, once Pons gets ahead, he can sometimes be pretty hard to catch in these races.
Here we go then into the complex bits here. Double right-handers. Pons at the moment doing pretty good out front. Nagashima backing it in as usual, and then the two Targo Bank machines.
Oh, big moment there for Vierge as he tries to get through on Tesha. Tesha comes back through. Moments like that will not be helping Vierge, but meanwhile Nagashima's closed up massively on Edgar Pons, so there might still be some hope if Nagashima can maybe slow down Edgar Pons at the front a bit.
Keep an eye out for Ant West. You can see the big number 13 trying to make some progress here, and he's making a move. Oh, he's gone from 5th to 3rd there, the Aussie.
Oh,
unbelievable.
Marini making up some spaces too and pushing Tesha to the back. Now it's Ant West at the lead of this second group. This second group is basically from 3rd to the back of the field. Everyone's within distance. You know, Odendaal only a couple. Pons draw a bit of a moment there from Pons. But the thing with Pons is that sometimes you're not sure if it's him having a moment or if it's just him riding how he likes to ride.
Well, Nagashima had got up on level terms with him, and then somehow Pons has managed to get his way back through. It's difficult to know which group to focus on at the moment. There's so many talented and wild-looking riders in the front 6, 7 places that at the moment it is Pons that leads this one, number 57 from Nagashima. Bit of a gap back then to Vierge and then Ant West.
Westy's definitely been getting aggressive with Vierge. It looks like Westy's been sharpening his elbows a bit, and I can't imagine that Vierge will like that. You know, Ant West has just come in for a one-off ride, and Vierge is really looking for this championship, so Vierge will be trying to keep his nose clean and catch up to these leading two.
In the background there, that's Odendaal trying to make a move up the inside of Marini. Not this time. Very tight there down into the dry sack corner. Pons still leads from Nagashima. 3rd for Vierge, then Ant West, then Tesha, then Marini for now. Number 10. Who has quite a famous half-brother, just at the moment, keeping himself ahead of Odendaal.
It looks like Vierge has been able to get a bit of air between him and Ant West to try and close down these guys.
Odendaal almost lost the front end then and ran into the back of Marini. He had to sit upright, and as a result, I think he's moved back 3 or 4 places, but the South African is going to have to do it all over again now.
Yeah, and a great ride from number 8 here, Thibaut Burton. He was another guy who had a pseudo technician visiting his pit. You don't usually see too many of them here in this championship, so maybe he's got 1 or 2 extra parts. As Marini moves up on Tesha, and as Nagashima continues to look through on Pons.
Good stuff then here throughout the field in Moto2. Across the start-finish straight we go, and there you can see Nagashima keeping Pons honest out front. Vierge has closed that gap down, still Ant West in 4th place, and then Tesha before you look at this group.
Yeah, this is definitely the best ride we've seen all year from Nagashima. Really strong from him. You know, usually he's towards the back of these big groups, battling for the podium, but now he's right up there, and clearly his confidence is at an all-time high. And it was Xavi Vierge who set the fastest lap last lap, a 1:45.7, which is 0.3 faster than Edgar Pons. So definitely watch for Vierge to get involved in this battle for 1st and 2nd any minute now.
Number 97 there, Xavi Vierge, who last year finished in 4th place overall. Didn't finished the season quite as strongly as he would have liked, but this year got his eyes fixed firmly on the championship. He knows he's got to finish ahead of Edgar Pons, and both of those will get their elbows out. At the moment, Luca Marini really getting quite aggressive here. You mentioned at the start that he doesn't mind a move or two. It's certainly looking to be the case here as now number 89, the 21-year-old Frenchman Alan Tescher tries to move forward.
Yeah, meanwhile, Lucas Mejias is right there as well. And on that Transformers bike, which is very experimental, you know, as we said, wishbone front. And here comes Tescher up the inside. Oh, nice move there from Tescher. Tescher and Marini especially have had some really close battles this year, so there'll be no love lost between the Frenchman and the Italian.
No, and Luca Mejias, as you just mentioned, number 90 there, just with the bright green helmet behind this number 10 Marini. Doesn't normally need any introduction when it comes to finding a gap through. He doesn't even need anybody to open a door, and you're about to see why.
He's taken a really tight line, and can he get it? Looks like Tescher's just going to kill his drive a bit there. But meanwhile, Vierge is now right behind Pons as Nagashima leads. Nice move for Nagashima to get in there. Nagashima really stepping the back wheel out and running terribly wide. Can he just? No, Edgar Pons gets ahead and then takes the title line and maintains it. But Nagashima and Vierge are both all over the shop looking for a way past Pons.
This is brilliant here from Nagashima, and he's helping out Vierge here in third, who's watching all of this unfold. So the red bike now moves out into the lead. The Japanese rider, Tetsuta Nagashima, has the advantage, but Pons sees the gap and takes it.
No, he runs a bit wide and Nagashima straight back through. Meanwhile, Vierge is just watching this battle unfold and just waiting for his opportunity to strike. And Ant West constantly gaining on them. If there is one person you do not want fighting for the win, it's Ant West, because as we keep saying, nothing to lose. He'll be back. Oh, big move there from Vierge as Pons takes a slightly different line.
Pons had a look over his shoulder, and that was the worst thing he could have done on the back straight there as Xavi Vierge, his title rival, moves through on him. And yeah, like you say, Ant West is joining in the fun here, and it is exactly the name that they did not want to see on the entry list coming into this weekend. Of course, they just want to fight it out for the championship. They don't want him getting his nose in the middle of things, which is certainly what it looks like happening here. And Nagashima, who would have predicted Nagashima to be fighting for the win here in Jerez? Still early stages, we've got 14 laps to go, but it is the number 72 who's had 2 fifth-place finishes as his best results this year that currently leads from Xavi Vierge, who's second overall.
Yeah, and it looks like Pons has now dropped off a bit from those leading two. Maybe he's having 1 or 2 problems. We've definitely seen in a few. Oh, Ant West coming up the inside. Did he get it past Pons? It looks like no, Ant West not quite able to get past Pons. But as I was saying, Pons has definitely struggled in the opening laps on 1 or 2 occasions this year. You know, struggling a bit with the bike when it's full of fuel. But hopefully he'll be able to come strong as Nagashima continues to lead. Nagashima setting the pace as well, both him and Vierge on almost identical lap times.
Odendahl, number 44 there, red bike. The AGR team, Kalex, is trying to make up for lost time after what happened a few laps ago. Now he's back on terms with Marini, number 10, so he'll have another go at it. He's gone ahead of Luca Mejias, who's just lost a bit of ground.
Yeah, and it's been the sorts of Tescher, Granado, Marini and Odendahl who've really been fighting for that third step of the podium, as the likes of Vierge and Pons have sort of been running away. But as you keep saying, absolutely stunning ride from Nagashima. It seems like he and the team have found an excellent setting on that bike and is able to ride how he wants it. As I said, he's been incredibly sideways into dry stack all weekend, and even into turn 1 on those opening laps, he was pretty sideways as well. Odendahl around the outside of Marini. Marini looks for a way to get past Odendahl up the inside, but no, the South African keeps his line from the Italian.
There's Luca Mejias, number 90, with that bright green helmet now on the tail of Italian Marini. He's looking for a way through as well after making that tiny error down into the last corner a couple of laps ago. Out front, if the checker flag were to go out now, there would be 26 points between Pons and Vierge going into the last couple of races in Valencia.
Yeah, nice move from Mejias there to get up the inside, and then he runs it a bit wide and is able to just maintain his lead. Meanwhile, Edgar Pons is now almost 0.8 of a second behind Vierge at the front, so it looks like Vierge is now really starting to push now that he's slipped past Nagashima.
Vierge so far this season with 4 wins, and certainly in the last few rounds he's looked pretty strong. Mejias.
Oh, around the outside, but Marini tries to get the line, but no, Mejias manages to just cut him off at the close.
The 18-year-old Italian, if he'll certainly find out what Luca Mejias is made of in a moment or two if they start touching elbows down the start-finish straight. Is not one you want to get into a tussle with, but at the moment he's giving as good as he gets, and he moves back ahead of the Frenchman. So it's Vierge that leads from Nagashima. Edgar Pons, the championship leader, in third. Out west in fourth. Bit of a gap then back to Alan Tescher. the young Frenchman and Eric Granado. Of course, Tesha and Granado both used to race together in the Moto2 World Championship.
Yeah, and here we see Nagashima is still sticking with Vierge. You know, Vierge is really starting to pound in the laps, putting in a 145 last lap, whereas the rest of the field were in those 146s or lower. So, strong result for Nagashima. You know, even if he can secure a podium, it would be a great result from him. But right now, it's really Edgar Pons who needs to get a wriggle on and try and catch these leading two, because, you know, as we said, Pons coming in had a mathematical chance of taking the title, but it looks like Vierge could be taking back at least 5 points, if not more, if the positions stay as they are.
You've got to love the way the Japanese style their bikes. Sometimes so simple the designs, and they look really retro and classic. As you look at Tetsuta Nagashima there in second place. The 23-year-old, like many Japanese riders, blows hot and cold really when it comes to results. If you look through some of the most famous Japanese riders over the last decade, you'll see a few blotches on the report as we now focus back to number 13, Ant West.
Yep, Ant West electing to run the air quotes world's unluckiest number, with the motto that it's lucky for some. And you know, Ant West he's had a mixed career. You know, he's taken 2 wins in the World Championship, both at Assen, separated by 11 years. And West is now out for glory in the CV Championship. He's definitely holding his own. You know, this is by far the best result we've seen from that bike with that team this year. And it's a pretty big change from West, who's been riding in MotoGP on the Cardian AB bike. So a bit of a big change, stepping from an open Honda to a 600cc FTR.
Yeah, experienced rider, of course. 15 seasons he's now spent in the GP paddock, so he's certainly a rider. If anyone was going to get that old bike moving and towards the top 5, it would be somebody like Ant West. This is Alan Tesha then, number 89, 21-year-old. 2 podiums so far this year. 5th place last time out, 2nd before that, so not quite got a win to his name. At the moment, he's just ahead of Eric Granado, who's making some progress. Yeah,
it looks like that Tesha's maybe pulling Granado along a bit and able to escape from the likes of Marini, Odendahl and Mejias, who are battling for 7th. Meanwhile, there's quite a good battle here with Fellini, Bertan, and then Eki and Rosley behind. So a nice battles throughout the field, as we're used to seeing in this Moto2 World Championship. Nagashima there with the fast lap of the race, so clearly he's not letting this win go without a bit of a fight. And Vierge is definitely used to fighting, not only this year with Pons, but last year with the likes of Rafa and Sebastian Porto and some other illustrious names.
The thing is, it's one thing when you've been battling away with Edgar Pons all year. You kind of know how each other works. You've been following each other. There might well be a certain amount of respect, but you know that it might get a bit ugly at times. Unknown quantity here in Nagashima. He's finished every race in the points, but 2 5th-place finishes is best. They really do not know what to expect, and as you've already seen with some of the lines that Nagashima's taking, he's willing to go around the outside if necessary to try and get his first race win.
Yeah, and when your first win is on the cards, sometimes the red mist can descend, and you know your brain can be taken out at just that last corner, and you can make a bit of a rash move. So Vierge will definitely be eager to try and open up some more space. The gap currently at about 0.2 of a second, so still neck and neck between those two at the front, while Pons continues to struggle to match their times.
See, this at the moment is working out very well for Vierge. He's got a rider in between himself and Pons. He can't really do anything about where Pons finishes. He just needs to win the race and hope that Pons falls further back, but you just never know what Nagashima's going to do. In 4th place then Ant West still, then Tesha, Granado, Marini, Odendahl, Mejias and Fellini. That's your top 10. You mentioned earlier about Fellini and the possible Suter connection there for 2016. This is the perfect place to be coming and testing a new chassis.
Yeah, definitely. You know, as we've seen, especially in the Moto3 Championship, is where a lot of these manufacturers use their testing bed, because all of these guys get 2 days of testing before each weekend, so you know they're able to rack up thousands of kilometres in a weekend. And the likes of Calix and Suter especially wanting to get back in the World Championship, will definitely use you know, their 1 or 2 top riders to test out some new parts, because there is so much track time that otherwise these guys can't get.
Of course, Sito Pons will be watching on as his son tries to wrap up the championship for this year. Bit of pressure, I would argue, on the Pons boys at times when it comes to racing at the World Championship level. When you've got a dad like Sito, there's quite a lot of expectation that's been shoved on your shoulders. And Adker at the moment coping with it well, as Nagashima there almost tucks the front end going into Lorenzo corner.
Yeah, bit of a wider line there, intentional or unintentional. Wider lines can sometimes be good to carry a bit more speed and get a bit more drive. as we say, Nagashima still sticking with Viege, but not really being able to show him a wheel yet. But last lap time's almost identical, just 0.02 of a second splitting the pair at the front. Both of them still in the 145s. Meanwhile, Eric Granado is the fastest of those riders behind, also in the 145. So maybe we could see a bit of a surprise from Granado as he and Tesha continue to battle for fifth.
Yeah, Granado, the Brazilian, 19, of course, spent a couple of years in the World Championship. I think this is a good call, you know, this year for Granado. Getting a bit of racecraft underneath you, it helps the confidence out immensely as they now head onto the back straight then. This is the battle for the lead. 97, it was Viege that has the advantage. I thought Nagashima might have a look at pulling out of the slipstream there, but not so.
No, still just keeping it nice and tight through there. You know, definitely not letting anyone through, not that there's anyone really within touching distance, but well, right now it looks like Nagashima's just keeping it tidy, trying to limit the mistakes to be as close as he can and wait for maybe Viege to make a bit of a mistake.
This, meanwhile, is the battle for third. Edgar Pons may be coming under a bit of pressure now from the Australian Ant West in the background. Edgar seemed to have a nice, comfortable barrier there just a moment ago, but it looks a lot closer now. Yeah,
and meanwhile, Nagashima also starting to really close in on Viege. Now just a wheel's width between them. Nagashima, I reckon, will be lining something up at turn 15.
Let's not forget, of course, if Viege was to get himself in a pickle here, this would be disastrous for his championship chances. He's got a bit of a mountain to climb, 30 points behind with 3 races left. Anything can happen as they now go down into Lorenzo Corner, both of them backing it in.
And Nagashima keeping a tighter line and still unable to even show a wheel to Viege. I'm not sure if he's trying to hide some cards for the final lap or if he just can't quite close in on Viege there. Now they're coming up on one of the stock 600 back markers there. The back marker doing his best to get out of the way as Ant West comes up the inside of Pons. Pons clearly having some problems if Ant West is getting through on him.
Yeah, that is not part of the script at all. And Edgar Pons at the end of this race, if it finishes like this, will be spitting feathers that the Australian is even here this weekend. It does certainly beg the question as to how sometimes these situations are allowed to unfold, but certainly when you've got a rider like Ant West with such GP experience, he could effectively decide a championship one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's racing and everyone is out there to get the best result they can for themselves and for their teams and sponsors. So I'm sure that Edgar Pons will be a bit upset by it. We've definitely seen 1 or 2 times this year in Parc Ferme that Pons has come in, big head shake even though he's been second, but Pons is definitely all about victory and he won't be happy with this. Meanwhile, Nagashima continues, like super glue, to stick to Viege.
Yeah, well, whatever happens for Edgar Pons at the moment, whether his chances of a win are blown or not, he'll be cheering on the red bike at the moment, number 72, to do some damage here on Xavi Viege, because this will make quite a difference in the championship. 25 points on offer at the moment to Xavi Viege, and just 13 for Edgar Pons. That's a 12-point gain that Viege would have, which would mean 18 in it going into the final round. That's if the checker flag were to go out now. There's still a fair amount of time left in this. We're on lap 10 of 17.
Exactly, and anything could still happen. You know, Nagashima seems to definitely be keeping it all in control. A bit wide there than maybe he intended to be, but still just sticking with Viege. And I can't quite work out what Nagashima's race strategy is here. Is he really on the limit, or is he holding back? He was certainly more sideways in practice and qualifying. So maybe this is a sign that with his wheels in line, he is keeping himself a bit more in line.
I think so, possibly. Certainly what we saw from him in the early stages of the race. He's not backwards and coming forwards, and I think that he'd have probably tried an audacious move or two here. You don't want to be burning away your tyres, though. He's got quite a lively riding style, Nagashima. You could soon run out of tyre at the end of this race, so maybe he's just playing it cautious for now, and he'll make a lunge towards the end of the race.
Yeah, meanwhile, further back, Edgar Pons continues to drop backwards. Edgar Pons now only 0.7 of a second ahead of Alan Tesha in 5th. So Pons could soon have the Frenchman and then Granado in turn right with him. And there's Nagashima's team, very pleased with the performance as Nagashima continues to just sit and wait.
So as it stands, Viege in prime position to pull back some points then on Edgar Pons. Pons started on pole position. Here he is, number 57, currently in 4th. And as Harry just mentioned, he's got company. Alan Tesha in the background there, closing in on this group, and he's bringing a few into the party with him as well. Luca Marini and Eric Granado have been very consistent so far in this race. Pons could yet find himself as far back as 7th, unless he's got anything left in the tank between now and the end of the race.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a big look over his shoulder there from Ant West. Not sure if West had a bit of a problem there, because Pons is now right back with him. So maybe Pons has gotten a bit of a hurry-up signal because he's now closing back up.
Interesting that Alan Tesher, of course, teammates with Xavi Vierge. I wonder if there's been any chats in the team, in the Targo Bank team there, in terms of team orders. Of course, Vierge would be allowed to finish ahead of Tesher, but Tesher could help out his teammate Xavi Vierge here by getting his nose ahead of Edgar Pons.
Yeah, and it looks like that battle for third is really starting to include a fair few more riders as both Ant West and Pons struggle to escape the likes of Tesher and Marini. And this fight at the front continues to rage. You know, it's been almost the entire race that Vierge has now just led comfortably ahead of Nagashima, but he hasn't been able to break the Japanese rider. So last corner, last lap, anything can happen, as we've seen both this weekend and in previous weekends.
Be interesting to see how Vierge gets on next year. He's still young, let's not forget. He spent a few years now in the CEV Championship. He's only 18, and you know, it might just click together for him next year in the Moto2 World Championship. At the moment, he's got a bit more to deal with on his plate, and it's Nagashima, the Japanese rider. In the background there, Pons, though, has recovered, so Ant West may be struggling now, and Edgar Pons, that could be crucial in terms of the championship.
Meanwhile, Marini gets up the inside of Tesher. Tesher taking a wider line to try and get the drive, but it looks like both the Paginas Amarillas bike have gotten ahead.
Vierge it is that leads from Nagashima. Big gap then back to Pons in third place, and there's Ant West. This is the battle for third. There is Cito Pons looking on with a stony face as per usual.
Big leg out there from Edgar Pons, making sure that there's no way Ant West can get through. And it looks like Edgar Pons has now found a bit of a groove and is trying to break away from Ant West.
Luca Marini, meanwhile, teammates to Edgar Pons, is doing his best for the cause and the team's championship hopes. He's now got himself ahead of Alan Tesher then, which he just commented on earlier on down into dry sack. He could as yet close in on Ant West and help them out, but here comes Ant West up the inside.
Big move from Westy there. That's a classic move. Westy's definitely done that one or two times this race, and Pons will be keen to avoid that on the last lap, because as you can see now, it doesn't look like Pons is able to... Oh, maybe Pons is just able to out-drag West if it were to come down to that on the last lap.
Don't forget, that's not a brand new bike that Ant West is on. He's doing very well at the moment on that old chassis. In the background there, all the while, this is allowing the rest of the pack to close in on them. Edgar Pons needs a favour now from his teammate.
Yeah, and with those two battling, Marini is closing up, and you can see that Pons is a lot more active on that bike than Ant West. Ant West's riding style a bit more reserved, a bit smoother, whereas Pons is really throwing himself and the bike around. You know, big movements from Pons there as he pops up out of the bubble to try and get it stopped, whereas Ant West is, you know, showing his experience, keeping himself conserved and saving his energy for the last few laps.
Here we go then, a few laps to go. It's still Vierge out front and Nagashima. You just saw them going through at the bottom of your screen. This is third place man Edgar Pons then. The moment ahead of Ant West. Now back to the leaders, Vierge and Nagashima. Nagashima at the moment has not been shaken off by Vierge. He cannot break him.
Now that gap steadily staying at 0.1 of a second, which is, you know, basically nothing, basically a bike length between them. And in these closing laps, one big move could really upset that lead and, you know, could potentially open up for one of these guys in third. Certainly last year we saw that Sebastian Porto and Jesko Raffin, they were battling for the lead, and on the last lap Sebastian Porto tried a very ambitious move and took out Raffin at the last corner, and neither of them were able to finish on the podium.
We're about to find out what Nagashima's got in his magic hat. Will he pull the plug now, or will he wait? He, at the moment, looks like the faster of the two riders. You could argue that he might be able to get out front and break Vierge himself, but at the moment, he stays in second place. As they go down the start-finish straight, could this be the moment he makes a move? No. They go uphill into turn one. It's still Vierge from Nagashima as he backs it in to turn one.
Yeah, Vierge definitely able to keep it a bit more in line there than Nagashima. Maybe Nagashima's starting to feel some tyre wear as he's starting to get a bit more out of line than he was at the start of this race. I was surprised that Nagashima wasn't able to close down on the straight with the help of that slipstream. Obviously, all of these Moto2 bikes have identical engines, so power delivery comes down to about how the chassis is set up and how power delivery runs through the chassis and then the rear shock.
Still Edgar Pons in third place, ahead of Ant West, Marini fifth, Tesher in sixth, then Granado, Odendahl, Fellini, Bertin, Ramirez, Eki, Rosley in the points, Gradinger and Ruhu.
There is Vierge's team onlooking, hoping that he can maintain his lead ahead of Nagashima, but it certainly looks like the Japanese rider's starting to have a sniff or two up the inside.
Nagashima here doesn't have really anything to lose in terms of winning this race, whereas Vierge, if these two start getting involved in a big fight, this could be disastrous for Vierge's championship. Whatever happens here, he needs to be bringing in some points. He needs to be going to Valencia with a chance of winning the championship.
Exactly. Obviously, this is the only race here today, so it's really a make or break for Vierge. You know, he'll have 2 races in Valencia to try and close that gap further, but he, as you say, he really wants to leave here, you know, within 20 points of Pons, and even if he is 20 points behind, it's still going to be an uphill battle for him.
Here we go then, down into the last corner. No rehearsal just yet from Nagashima. We begin lap 15 of 17. There's 3 to go as they make their way onto the start-finish straight. Vierge will be getting all the information he needs on his pit board, and we can see them hanging out here. And the team willing Vierge on as they just go underneath the UFO and into turn 1. Nagashima there just stretching himself a little bit now. Maybe Vierge in the latter stages trying to put everything into this lap and pull away.
Yeah, that gap now 0.3, which is basically the biggest we've seen that gap all race. And hopefully Vierge isn't pushing too much. We've seen him make 1 or 2 mistakes in closing laps in previous races this year. So hopefully he and that Mistral 610 bike can stay upright, because a crash now would be absolutely devastating.
It is number 97, Xavi Vierge, that leads from Nagashima. They make their way onto the back straight. By the way, they've got a 5-second gap over Edgar Pons, who seems to have settled down again now. He's got back past and West. Down into the dry sack corner. Nagashima's leaving this until the last lap, surely. He's not even once attempted to pull out the slipstream and go up the inside of Vierge. I expect quite an action-packed final lap here in Jerez between these two.
Yeah, Nagashima continues to just close that gap down to about 0.1 of a second, which is really within striking distance at any corner on that final lap. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Nagashima does do this whole race. You know, it seems like he's had the pace. He's been able to produce slightly quicker laps when he needs to, but he's never really looked super aggressive. And we've seen this with a lot of riders in the World Championship and here, you know. Andrea Dovizioso is sort of the classic rider who's clearly a very talented rider, but just lacks a bit of aggression. And sometimes you do need that aggression to really make or break.
Oh, Nagashima there just had to revert to a slightly wide line to avoid hitting Vierge up the backside, and now onto the start-finish straight to start the penultimate lap. He won't be close enough for a move into turn 1, but as we've seen in the last 3 or 4 laps, he doesn't look like he's in any hurry at the moment to do anything about it. Pons still in 3rd, the championship leader, but as it stands, this is going to the final round in Valencia in a fortnight's time.
The rear end of Nagashima's bike starting to step out more and more, especially through that turn 3 and turn 4 combination.
Here we go then, around turn 4 and now into turn 5. Will Nagashima think about a move on the penultimate lap? He goes wide. That's a nice sweeping line. That'll give him loads of drive onto the back straight. This could be a moment where he fancies a move. Especially with the help of the slipstream. He's broken the slipstream. He's got the outside line, though. That'll be hard to get past Vierge with the outside line. Drifting wide and a bit sideways. Can he get it stopped and keep it tight? There's not a lot of grip on the curbs on the outside there. Here's Pons in 3rd, then still in the background there. Luca Marini looks like he's now moving up into 4th place. Ant West in real trouble. Yeah, Ant West getting pushed back by Marini there. A really good result for Marini. You know, Marini's in his rookie Moto2 season up against Ant West, who, as you say, has ample experience not only in Moto2 but 250s and MotoGP. So being able to beat West will be a really good thing for Marini as he continues to adapt to the bigger bikes. Yeah, that'd be a good sculpt for Luca Marini in terms of his development. Here we go then. We have got just over a lap to go, and it's going to be between these two, Vierge and Nagashima. You're looking at the championship leader there, and this is the battle for 4th place. Luca Marini, Alan Tescher. Tescher, of course, currently 3rd in the championship, just ahead of Marini, so this is quite important in terms of those championship situations. Granado. Watch out for Ant West, though. Turn 13, his favourite spot up the inside. Beautiful line there from Ant West to get back ahead of Tescher. Now then, we need to concentrate on that battle out front if possible. 3rd place at the moment is still to Pons. He's okay in the championship lead. Tescher it is that's still there up ahead of Ant West, and Granado's there to pick up any pieces should it go wrong. Vierge and Nagashima on this final lap are separated by just over 1/10 of a second. Yeah, anything can still happen with that. And Nagashima has to make a move in this last lap, you know. There's no more laps after this. He's clearly
He's clearly been sitting and waiting, and it's time to stop being patient and start being aggressive for Nagashima, because it's really getting do or die as they start to build up to the dry sack corner.
Vierge is taking the defensive line here. He's making Nagashima go the long way round. What will happen as we're breaking down into the dry sack corner? Tight line there from Vierge, and it's not going to happen there. It could be down to Lorenzo corner, unless, of course, he fancies a move up into Angel Nieto corner, turn 9. He has to be closer than this, though.
Yeah, Nagashima's been taking some slightly different lines through this closing sector. Just there, for example, going slightly wider. Will he be able to do it? It's really going to come down to the final corner, Lorenzo corner. So many incidents there in the past. Will we see another one here today?
Oh, here we go then. Now this is it. This is do or die for number 72. He's got to try and show his front wheel going into Lorenzo corner, which means he now has to carry a lot of corner speed here into the Crivier corner, and he's doing so. He's pushing that TSR, and now we head around to the final few turns.
It's all down to this as they build up. It's going to be who's on the brakes. Nagashima goes for the inside. A nice move there. He gets the inside line, and oh, he runs it wide. Classic mistake from Nagashima there. Vierge will easily take victory now. Really strong result from Nagashima in second though, but a huge result for Vierge, who's able to now close up that gap to Edgar Pons, who's going to... Oh, Westy looks behind. Is he going to get it? No, Westy gets beaten by Tesha as well. Unfortunate for West. Great result for Marini to get fourth, and Edgar Pons secures the podium in third, so damaged limitations for him.
Well, Xavi Vierge in the end does the job that he needs to do. 176 points he moves on to. That means there is going to be a gap of, I believe, 21 points going into the final round of the championship. Vierge has done what he needed to do. Nagashima did show his front wheel in the end, but it was just a bit of a late dart move. Some good defensive riding there on the final lap from Xavi Vierge to take it. And a wheelie there in celebration for Tetsuta Nagashima, who picks up his first podium in the class with a fine second place. Just unfortunate for him, he wasn't quite able to do it, but they both stayed upright. Edgar Pons, it could have gone a lot worse than that for him. He fell back to fourth, remember, in the early stages of that race. Alan Tesha then takes fifth, that's 11 points. And that will move him on to 109. Luca Marini's fourth, 13 points for him, means he is now just 4 points behind Alan Tesha going into the last round. That's the battle for third place overall in the championship. As for Odendaal, not a great day at the office for him. The South African takes 10th place, which is 6 points, which means that he will have a lot to do in the final round if he wants to feature in the top 3 of the championship overall. So the story is Edgar Pons could have wrapped up the Moto2 championship here today in Jerez, but he hasn't done. It's Xavi Vierge. This is the move into the last corner. Nagashima going through. Vierge had to sit upright, managing to go through on the cutback and takes the overall win. Fantastic result then for Xavi Vierge. He'll make his way down into Parc Fermé, where Harry will greet him and have a quick chat with him after a decent result. But either way, Vierge has cut down Edgar Pons' lead by 9. That means there's 21 points with 2 races to go between them. 50 points on offer. There is Vierge now making his way into Parc Fermé. Nice little stoppy there as well from 6th on the grid. That's a good effort and such an aggressive start. You'll see in the highlights in a little while after we've spoken to the riders and we've seen the podium, you'll see that Vierge from 6th place audaciously moved up into the lead down into turn 1. Now let's get confirmation of the final results. Xavi Vierge wins it in the end from Tetsuta Nagashima by 6/10 of a second. Edgar Pons is 3rd, Luca Marini 4th. Alan Tesha finishes in 5th ahead of Anton West, who just faded towards the end there. Eric Granado 7th ahead of Federico Fellini, and Marcus Ramirez in a solid 9th place there, taking a top 10 finish. Ramirez, incidentally, is the leading super stock rider with that 9th place finish overall, so good news for him. Further behind, we have Odendaal in 10th. He'll be disappointed with that. Thibaut Bertin finishes in 11th. Dimas Eki in the end was 12th ahead of Ramdan Rosley. Graninger 14th, the final point there for Max Inderlein. Gabriel Ruchu in 16th, then Mikkel Pons, no relation to Edgar, we should just point out, in 17th, and then Thomas Sigvartsen
Down in Parc Fermé then, here is the top three. Third place for Edgar Pons, the championship leader. Second for Tetsuta Nagashima, his first podium in CEV Repsol Championship. And the race win going to Xavi Vierge, the 18-year-old with his fourth win of the season.
Another great win and getting more points back on Edgar.
Yeah, this weekend Edgar is so fast all the weekend. Me, all the qualifyings improved, but not necessary. But today in the race, my feeling with the bike, it's incredible. All the laps with the wind, it's so difficult, but I push. And in the last corner with Nagashima, I brake so late, impossible brake more late than me. And when I listen the engine of Nagashima, I think it's impossible to stop the bike. And I prefer brake more hard, pass Nagashima, but I get the victory. You know? It's very important because in the championship, Edgar stay in front of me and now catch race by race the difference of the points. I'm very happy and thank you very much for the team, for the perfect work. Ha sido un fin de semana muy difícil para nosotros. Desde cada clasificación íbamos mejorando, pero no era suficiente. Edgar está muy fuerte durante el fin de semana, pero hoy en la carrera ha sido totalmente diferente. Hemos encontrado una muy buena puesta a punto que me ha permitido tirar vuelta a vuelta. Y bueno, la última curva he frenado lo más tarde posible. Si frenaba Nagashima donde yo era imposible entrar. Así ha sido, no he escuchado su motor, pero he confiado en mi estrategia y sabía que se iba a ir largo y le he podido pasar por dentro. Importante para nosotros esta victoria, ya que Edgar ha sido tercero y cogemos 9 puntos más el campeonato. Dar las gracias al equipo y nada, en Valencia más.
So let's look back at the highlights then of this Moto2 race this afternoon from Jerez. The lights went out and watch for Xavi Vierge from 6th on the grid on the inside there. He was pushed out by Ant West originally, then got his elbows out and managed to lead somehow going into turn 1. Couldn't quite hold it though. Going through on him was Edgar Pons, and he led in the early stages with Alan Tesher up there in second. But look at Tetsuta Nagashima backing it in, moving up into third. Tesher ran wide, and then Nagashima moved into second place. The rider that's never had a podium in this class before then closed down and clawed back the lead of Edgar Pons, who was leading the race. Tesher and Vierge then almost came together as Vierge lost the back end. Tesher moved up ahead of Luca Marini further back. There's a rider moving over. Then this was the battle further back for third as Ant West moved ahead of Edgar Pons, who was dropping like a stone at one stage during this race. Further back there was some decent battles going on in the super stock class. Marcos Ramirez in the end winning that one. Then Edgar Pons and Ant West continued to scuffle for third. At this point of the race, third was about the best that either man could manage. Out front though, it was between Xavi Vierge and Nagashima. Coming down into the final turn, Vierge braked late, Nagashima later. Nagashima couldn't quite hold it together. Vierge goes through to take the win, and that is crucial in terms of the championship. There's 21 points in it now between Edgar Pons, the leader, and Vierge in second, going into the final round in Valencia in a fortnight's time. Still a couple of races to come here. We have Moto3 and Superbikes still to come, another couple of races for them, but the top three will now make their way onto the podium here. And fantastic day's racing then for the Moto2 riders. Third place goes to Edgar Pons. And that is podium number 9 for him. So he's been on the podium for every race so far this year. 9 out of 9 for him, which means he stays out front in the championship. Tetsuta Nagashima, that's his first podium of the season. He's been in the top 8 in just about every single race, but never this far up before. Great result for him, and he'll pick up a trophy for his efforts. Team representative from the Targo Bank Sport squad will now pick up a trophy. Sherry Glass and Xavi Vierge
on the top step. That's his 8th podium and 4th win so far this season. There is Ramirez picking up the super stock win. So decent result for him after what has been a tricky season. 3rd place for Edgar Pons. I'm sure he'd have liked it to have been slightly different, certainly having led from the early stages. But he'll have to now concentrate on Valencia in 2 weeks' time to get the job done. 21 points ahead with 2 races remaining.
Yeah, solid result for Pons, really damage limitation, but he does head to that final round. 2 races in comfortable lead. Nagashima, 1st podium of the year, by far his best result, and a really good race. And as we heard from Vierge, it was a pretty tense last corner.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't blame Nagashima for having gone for it. It would have been his first win. He had to show a front wheel. But I think even he knew that he wasn't going to make that stick.
Yep, and there's the with the winners, Sherry Glass, and yeah, another win for him. And it's still an uphill battle for him. But you know, last round, 2 races, anything can happen. You know, even just a small crash from either of them in practice or something could be that bit of a hiccup that really does unsettle Pons, and it does allow Vierge to take the advantage. And obviously both those riders moving to the World Championship next year, so we'll continue fighting there as well as we prepare for the national anthem.
Great result then for Xavi Vierge. He closes the gap down to Edgar Pons in the championship, exactly what he needed, and now time to celebrate.
Yeah, and obviously these Moto2 riders really can celebrate. You know, there's no worries about getting the leathers a bit sticky. There's no race 2 for them. It's their only time out on track today, so it will be a case of enjoying it now. And as you saw there, again, the wind continues to build. I didn't think it could get any stronger, but the wind is still getting stronger. So especially for this upcoming Moto3 race, it's going to be a tricky one. Vierge himself said it was difficult in that race with the wind on the bigger Moto2 bikes.
So the top 3 being joined by the Superstock winner as well. We'll get a quick glimpse of the championship points just to make sure that the maths are absolutely right, and here they are. 2 races to go, then Edgar Pons it is that still has the lead. 21 exactly ahead of Xavi Vierge. Tesha in 3rd place, with Luca Marini now just 4 behind him in the battle for 3rd overall. Stephen Odendahl loses out a bit there in 5th. Granado closes in on him. Then it's Nagashima in 7th, Medina in 8th, and Fellini in 9th.
Yeah, strong debut season from Fellini. Good that Nagashima was able to jump up. Then in 10th is Thibaut Berchem with his strong ride, ahead of Adrian Pittet, Miquel Pons, no relation to Edgar. Marcos Ramirez in 13th, leading that stock championship. Ramdan Rosley in 14th, ahead of Xavi Tardalus, Marco Nekvasil, Gabriel Ruhu, the youngest rider in the class, and Ika Likanau, who was not riding this weekend, unfortunately.
Further down the grid there, you can see Max Sheeb, who's starring in the Superbike class here at the moment. Ant West with those 10 points moves up into 21st, ahead of Diego Perez, Julian Morales, and Nicky Coates, with Gradinger there in 25th, ahead of Brenner and Matt Vendelion.
Yeah, still all to play for those lower positions. You know, as you saw with Ant West, just one solid ride and you can get a really big jump up over your other guys, and it is really close down the bottom end of the field there.